What's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another live edition of the Dawgs podcast, coming to you virtually tonight. No Justin here. He's got a gaggle of kids at the house, so he wasn't able to join us live tonight. But it's just Josh and myself. Kenny Mack, who's our typical backup, is going to the Cavs game. So he had a better form of therapy than we're going to have here. He gets to go watch a good Cleveland sports team tonight. So he's going with one of our dog pack members. So that's cool. We'll get to the dog pack here in a minute. But just a little perk. Maybe you find somebody to go to a Cavs game with if you join the dog pack. So another atrocious week of football for the Cleveland Browns. Basically, unless your entire goal is draft picks, which at least where we're standing, mine is, it was pretty awful. But we won because we are now in that, I think, at the 5th pick. And we're probably pretty much a lock for the 4th unless we get stupid and win one of these last 2 weeks. So at least we're looking at a top 5 draft pick that we can try not to squander for the first time since, Myles Garrett, maybe Baker Mayfield. But we're going to do this therapy session with you guys, get your guys' thoughts on the game, what you think the Browns should go do going forward. There's been some interesting news around the league in terms of some other quarterbacks that we want to get into. So again, thank you for hanging out, choosing to hang out with us for an hour of Browns talk, despite the Browns not being worth our time. This isn't lost on us. We know that this is painful, so thank you for joining us. If you want to get your thoughts and intros on the show, head to thedogspodcast.com, tap leave voicemail. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Make sure you tap the notification bell so you don't miss any of the content we're putting out. As we move into the offseason, things will be more fun because we won't have losses to talk about. We'll have free agency and drafts, which is our Super Bowl. It's back to being our Super Bowl, unfortunately. So make sure the notification bell's tapped so you don't miss any of the content that we're putting out. If you prefer to just listen to the show, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, and Google. If you want to find us on any of the social media platforms, just search at the Dawgs Podcast. You'll be able to find us. We're on all of them. And lastly, if you're looking for more Dawgs content, head to jointhedawgs.com. Become an official Dog Pack member on the Patreon page. You get access to the private Discord. You get to play fantasy football with us. You get to be a part of the preview episodes. You get after hours episodes in the off season. You get to just hang out with Browns fans from all over the world. It's a good time for everybody. And I know we want to shout out some of these Dog Pack members. Like I said, Kenny Mack is a Dog Pack member. He is going to the game tonight with another Dog Pack member. I've been to a football game with a Dog Pack member. All of us have met a bunch of each other at Backers Bash. So we've made a lot of good friends through the Dog Pack. It's really like a cool, tight-knit community that's really grown over the last couple of years. And like I mentioned, you get to play fantasy football with us. And I know myself, unless Jaden Reed goes off for about 55 points, will be clinching a spot in the title of my league tonight. And I know Josh has some news. We're talking a lot of shit here because the dogs are representing well in the podcast leagues.
Yeah, they are. I want to shout out Eric Benton. We had a hard-fought match in our semifinal week, but I pulled it out. So I want to wish good luck to Obi-Wan and the higher ground. He beat Gravedigger to advance to the championship game next week against me. And then in the other Dog Pack League that I'm running, Andy Kaiser, old buddy from high school, he's been my nemesis in this Dog Pack League for years. I finally got past him. He kicked my butt in the championship last season, but I scorched him this week in the semis. Mama Tendo, I talk about her all the time. Last year was her first year playing fantasy. Terrible. She had no idea what she was doing this year. She makes it all the way to the semis, and she just came up short against Nick Weaver, who goes to the championship in that league, also against me, like I said. And then the 2 other leagues, Chubb Club Dynasty Champ. We have 2 Dynasty leagues in the Dog Pack. It's crazy, but Chubb Club Dynasty Championship will feature Arendelle against Natus the Greatest, and the Dog Pack Dynasty League will be Beef Gierke against Natus the Greatest. So Nate is trying to pull off the double Dynasty Championship this season. So good luck, Nate, I guess. If I want somebody to win double, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It's a lot of fun playing with these Dog Pack members.
Yeah, the Dog Pack fantasy leagues are super fun. We, like Josh said, we have 2 dynasty leagues. We also have 4 redraft leagues. And I'm already looking forward to next season, bumping it up. Maybe we can get a 3rd dynasty league, a 5th redraft league. So it's a good time. Everybody enjoys it. A lot of shit talking, but there's trades. They're actually very active leagues. So if you want to play fantasy football with us, you want to get access to that private Discord and be hanging out with Browns fans 24/7. Again, that's jointhedawgs.com to become an official Dog Pack member. So as we transition into, unfortunately, a football game to talk about, the Browns fall at the hands of the Bengals 24-6. Another inept offensive showing. This one's slightly different in terms of the way it looked, but at the end of the day, the result is the same: turnovers, no points, and a loss. It's kind of seems that it doesn't matter how we get there, we're going to find our way to the L. And we're either going to have 500 yards of offense and 3 turnovers and lose, or we're going to have 180 yards of offense and 2 turnovers and we're going to lose. Bottom line is we're just not a very good football team, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I thought the defense, outside of an opening 99-yard drive, defense played pretty great again, all considering Cincinnati's arguably the best offensive team in football right now. They have the leading receiver and the leading quarterback in terms of passing yards. Joe Burrow, if the Bengals aren't 7-8, Joe Burrow is being talked about as league MVP.
Oh, for sure.
Jamar Chase is being talked about as offensive player of the year. Like the Bengals issues are on the defensive side of the ball, which is just all the more deflating that we couldn't muster more than 6 freaking points against this team. The fact that we could only throw for 157 yards against what I believe was the 29th ranked passing defense in the National Football League. Pretty much anybody with a pulse has shredded the Bengals this year. Absolutely shredded. And we couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Well, and even on the ground, like they're not very good at defending the run. And the announcers yesterday, the whole time during the game, just kept going back to like, why aren't the Browns running the ball? They should run the ball, establish the run, control the clock, control time of possession, give your defense more of a break. Nah, it was just pass, incomplete, almost pick, whatever it is. Just, it was terrible. Again, just like we've seen all year.
I don't understand the lack of running the football when you're starting DTR. And a lone bright spot, I won't say the lone because Jerry Jeudy's obviously been a bright spot, but Jerome Ford has played, at least for me, above expectations this season when he's played, and he averaged 8.4 yards per carry yesterday. He had 11 carries for 92 yards, and it's like, why won't we give this guy the ball a little bit? I'm not saying give Jerome Ford. Obviously, I've talked a lot about if he turns into a 20 carry a game guy, his flaws are going to start being magnified. But man, when you're throwing for 157 yards and at halftime you have -7 yards, maybe start leaning on the run a little bit, Ken Dorsey. Like I don't know what we're doing. And it became obvious early that the Bengals realized DTR wasn't going to be able to make good, quick decisions and get rid of the ball. And they just started blitzing. They just started bringing pressure off the edge, getting creative in their blitzes. And this game was over before it even started. And it was difficult to watch on the offensive side of the ball again.
Yeah, for sure. Now I will just on the Jerome Ford thing. I mean, we talked about this a lot last year. He is a very good home run hitting back. He can hit the big play. If you get him in space, he's gone. It's very difficult to catch him. He's very fast. Outs, he had 11 carries, 92 yards, like you said, but 66 of those came on that first play of the game where he just scampered straight down the field toward the end zone, almost scored. If you take that one run away, he was 10 for 26 at 2.6 a clip. Now, we know the offensive line is not set up very well this year for success in the run blocking game. We don't run the ball enough to get a rhythm down or to get a guy really in the groove. So it is just frustrating because you brought up the point last week. You weren't available for the preview show, but you did send us some notes that we talked about on the show was what kind of game plan do the Browns come out for DTR in this start? Is it going to be like last year where they really game managed around him, tried to run the ball, control a lot of short passes, more efficient stuff? Or are they just going to drop him back and let him sling it around like we've been doing with any other of our quarterbacks? And that's what we got. So, yeah, the game plan was go out there and you be the guy now. And we know after enough, time with him on the field, he's not the guy. I not to toot my own horn here too much, but yesterday before the game, Grant Puskar, however you say his name, on X posted, what do you guys predict the stat line for DTR to be today? And it was before the game, I promise. I put 16 of 34, 153 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 picks. And DTR stat line was 20 of 34, 157 yards, no touchdowns and 2 picks. So I was 4 completions and 4 yards off of being spot on with my DTR prediction.
Yeah, I saw that today, and that's pretty impressive. I'm going to start letting you make my bets for me.
I'm going to start making my own.
This is one of those things, though, where it's just the Browns, it doesn't matter. And like I said, I was on the keep starting Jameis train this entire season, but it doesn't matter. It's not like Jameis was winning football games. He was, what, 2-5, 2-4, and turning the ball over at a historic rate. He's going to lead the league in interceptions, only starting half the games at the rate he was going. We almost had 10 turnovers the last game Jameis started. And it just, they are damned if they do, damned if they don't. It doesn't matter. We don't have a starting quarterback on a roster. That's just the bottom line. And it's hard to win football games when you don't have a starting quarterback on your football team, and you don't have probably a starting 3-down running back on your team. You don't have an offensive scheme that is suited to the play style of your offensive lineman, in my opinion. And it's just, you're completely a mismatch of parts on the offensive side of the ball, and none of your parts are that great right now. You're not a good football team. That's just, and it's like we're beating a dead horse. We're just pounding the same drum every single week, but it is what it is. This is where we're at right now. I guess the scarier thing to think about is just, is this a 1-year deal or is it going to be a multiple year deal? That's really what the real story is about the Browns anymore. The games are inconsequential at this point.
No, you're right. I mean, I've been obviously talking with a lot of people on social media the last couple of days during the game yesterday and afterward. And, we'll get into the Myles Garrett comments a little bit later. We'll do a segment on that on this show. So stay tuned if you're interested to hear our take on that. But, we've got players coming out and basically already saying, hey, is this like a one-off or do we suck now? Like, is this just going to happen every year? And if the players in the building are worried about it, I think it's fair for us to be worried about it. I mean, we've been Browns fans for our whole lives. We know that when they suck, and they usually suck for a while. So I am worried about next year.
Well, I think we're right to be worried because, like you said, we've been Browns fans for a long time now. If anything, we'll have no expectations for next year, so we'll be good. Yeah, and then we'll have expectations for 2026, and we'll be ass again. That's just kind of the story of our lives as Browns fans. In terms of the game, I guess if we want to, before we just start going off on tangents about the Browns season as a whole and whatnot, do we have a voicemail we want to get to before we get too far?
Yeah, we do. Let me kick off the voicemail. We got 2 today. The first one's going to be Mr. Jackson.
What's going on, guys? Apparently this game is still going on. I have no idea. There's so much to say. There's so much to rant and hate, but I think we can all agree that the Deshaun Watson experiment failed. But we tried, right? I mean, at least we tried. Gave D for effort. But can we now just put the DTR shit to bed? Like, he is terrible, and terrible beyond terrible. Like, I don't even know why we trot that guy out. I mean, maybe it's for better tanking ability, try to get a better draft pick, but I don't even want that. Like, I would rather at least wreck other people's seasons and go out like, hey, at least we screwed over this team or that team. Like, I don't care about that high draft pick, just for the simple fact we're going to probably screw it up. I mean, none of these 2 quarterbacks are worth 2 fucks anyway, Sanders or Cam Ward. Like, I don't want none of them. But God damn it. Like, this is miserable to watch. And I mean, it's terrible. Like, I used to feel bad for Ken Dorsey and getting robbed in that 2003 national championship game against Ohio State. It clearly wasn't pass interference. But you know what? Today, it was fucking pass interference, and I'm glad you lost, you son of a bitch. I hate you. Anyway, sorry for bad words.
First thing I'd like to address is it was 100% pass interference.
Come on, Andrew. You know you're talking to Buckeyes fans here, man. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Vols fans, where are you at?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. But I used to be a lot like Andrew in terms of being this upset when watching the Browns. And about, I'd say 2 months ago, apathy. and maybe that's dangerous, but it's no skin off my nuts when they just lose this bad anymore. Like, and maybe that's bad to say as the host of a Browns podcast. I'm supposed to be all fired up, but I'm dead inside. It doesn't fucking matter. We suck, and we're just we sucked last week, we sucked the week before, and we're gonna suck next week, and we're gonna keep sucking for probably my whole life. And I guess maybe about 2 months ago, it just finally set in to the point where I'm watching on Sunday and I'm almost just laughing. And if I have to go do something during the game, I go do it. And if something else happens in my house, I just go do that, because at this point it's not fucking worth my time. And I've found I'm less miserable. I don't sound like Andrew Jackson anymore. And maybe apathy is the bad thing, but they've done it to us, and we were all excited for this season. We were all on board for the Deshaun move and all this stuff. But when you saw that it wasn't going to work, and then you still trotted him out anyways, and then you still transformed your offense anyways, that's where you lost me. Like I'm fine with making the move. I was excited for the move. I thought he was going to be good this year, but when freaking reporters are telling us in training camp that it doesn't look good,
yeah,
and then you just lied to us for however many weeks, and I get it, you got money on the line, but you wonder why fans are apathetic or we don't give a shit. That's right. There's why you got married to, if you're going to make a mistake, that's fine, but doubling down on your mistake, okay, you lost me, and that's, now I just don't care.
Yeah, it's tough because as fans, it's almost like we could almost run this organization better than they can. Like, what's the problem with the Browns? We know what the problem is. You don't, like you said, no quarterback. You went away from what your strength was on offense, and you hired a guy that the Bills just fired for not running the ball enough, and now we're going, gee, we don't run the ball enough. It doesn't work. We have to get rid of Ken Dorsey. They got to get rid of Paul DePodesta. They got to get rid of this whole the entire quarterback room has to go, whether they're on the roster or not. They cannot be even in a competition, Watson or any of them. It's ridiculous. And I am definitely more like Andrew Jackson than I am like you when I'm watching the games, because I sit down and I'm like, hey, I'm going to go watch the freaking Browns. They're going to suck today. But then actually watching it happen on the field, the incompetence is what pisses me off. Like, I get way too passionate, probably for my own good, but watching them on offense, it's brutal. It's so disgusting. And they're just, I've never seen an offense this inept. And I've been telling people online and stuff, like, I've been to so many like 5th and 6th grade football games over the last couple of years. Their offenses are run better than this. It's terrible. It really, man, when you're watching the game and you're in that moment, I feel Andrew. I know he called and left that voicemail during the game. That's how you feel.
Maybe it's one of those things where I might have been like that at the beginning of the year, but I don't expect us to play well.
Yeah.
So when we go out and don't play well, they're just doing what I expect them to do. And so what am I mad about them doing what we all know they're going to do anyways? I would be more shocked if they went out and played well. So just like, if I know coming into this football game that DTR is going to be ass and we're not going to run the ball and we're probably going to have turnovers and we're going to be lucky to score a touchdown, and then all of that happens, well, I think Mary Jane Watson said it, expect disappointment and you'll never be disappointed. Well, here we are. I expect disappointment and I'm never disappointed.
Well, I've got some numbers I want to run through for everybody real quick, just to speak to what you're talking to right now about this disappointment, why even have expectations for this team to do anything competent. I ran through the numbers, posted them on Twitter today. Here's the numbers for this team right now. 30 turnovers, 31st in the league, which means they have the second most. 20 interceptions thrown, that's the most. 12 takeaways, that's 30th, meaning only 2 teams have fewer takeaways on defense than we do. We've only gotten 4 interceptions on defense, that's 31st. 121 penalties, 24th. 57 pre-snap penalties, 32nd. We have the most. 66.7% field goal percentage, that is 32nd. 85% PAT, 32nd. So our kicking game is the worst in the league. Our brand new juicy offense that we've been talking about here, 307.2 yards per game, that's 25th. 211.3 yards per game passing, 19th. But take out the Jameis Winston games, 155.3 yards passing, that's 32nd. 95.9 rush yards per game, 27th. 16.3 points per game, 31st. Negative 0.15 EPA, 31st. And a 37.7% success rate, that's 31st. A lot of bottom of the league stuff.
We're talking offensive numbers that if you put up a blind comparison to a team that went 1-31 with Deshaun Kaiser at the helm, you wouldn't know which one was which.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the highest paid roster in football.
Yeah, $246.4 million, and the second highest cash total, $329 million spent on this shitty roster.
It's and it's hard to tell, is the roster this bad?
That's a good point.
Or is the roster not being played to their strengths? This roster was built a majority of the time with Baker Mayfield at the helm in terms of how we were in Kevin Stefanski calling his offense and how they were going to play. And then we kept all of our core guys on the offensive side of the ball in terms of our linemen, tight end, the running backs the last couple of years. And we completely changed offensive philosophies without changing the players outside of quarterback to fit that offensive philosophy. So we're just trying to jam a bunch of square pegs into round holes and then wondering why they're not playing well. You're asking them to do things that are out of their wheelhouse. And it's just, I have a hard time believing that our offensive line went from a top run blocking offensive line in football to all of a sudden we can't run the ball. And I know they've gotten older and whatever, but it's just hard for me to buy that all of them have dropped off that much in the span of a year. You know what I mean?
I agree with you. Mm-hmm.
It's just, and it's just, I just don't know. It's so hard to evaluate the roster when it was built on a bad foundation. And to me, the bad foundation was the quarterback. I've said that a bunch of times. You can have all these nice parts. You can build a great house and put all these nice new features in it. And if you got a cracked foundation, it's just going to collapse in itself. And you'll just have a really nice piece of rubble. And that's exactly what the Browns are right now. I don't know if there's too much you want to talk about in terms of the game because we've seen this game a million times.
We did.
I kind of wanted to talk.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to
talk about what the Aditi talked about. She talked to Jimmy before the game. And this is a hot button topic for a lot of Browns fans is he came out and reiterated the fact that Kevin and AB, he feels like they're the guys. He feels good about them. What do you think? Do you think that's just owner talk? What do you think?
So somebody did ask me this on social media today, and I said, honestly, if I had to bet on it right now, here's what I think the Browns are probably going to do this offseason. Whether you're on board with this or not, let us know in the comments, and we'll talk about it all offseason. I think they keep Kevin. I think they keep AB. I think they probably keep DePodesta. He seems to have some sort of in with Jimmy. I don't know what he's got on him, but I think the baseball guy stays. I think there's a stronger chance than I am happy about that they actually might keep Ken Dorsey. If they come out and say we're rolling it back next year, we're going to fix some things and keep the staff in place, I actually would not be shocked. I'd be pissed, but I wouldn't be shocked. What do you think they're going to do?
I think Ken Dorsey will be gone if they're actually going to move on from Deshaun.
Okay.
I
hope so.
I think essentially he was here to maximize Deshaun Watson. If Deshaun Watson's not here, there's no reason for Ken Dorsey to be here.
Right.
So I think that is where they'll have to make a decision. I think especially based on what Nathan Zagura said, and I mean, he's plugged in as much as anybody with the Browns. I just don't see, they could say anything they want about how he's got a chance to compete to be the starter next year. And I don't see him ever stepping foot on the field for the Browns again. They know that would, first of all, I think you would lose the locker room completely if you roll him back out there. The fan base it'll be ugly. You won't want to play. We're trying to build a new stadium. You don't want fan support to just completely bottom out 2 years before you open up your new billion-dollar facility. I just don't see a world in which Deshaun Watson's back. And then in that case, I don't see a world in which Ken Dorsey's back. In terms of keeping the rest of the staff, I'm fine with it at this point. I think the players just want to know that the team has a plan. And I think if that plan, and I think they want the plan to be what it used to be, a run first, maul people, AFC North style football team that can give the defense a rest and control the clock and limit turnovers and all that good stuff. If we end up making a move for a guy like Kirk Cousins, which seems more and more like there's a possibility that could happen if he's willing to come play here. So I'm not that mad if we bring the staff back. I know a lot of people want to tear it all down and start over. To me, what's one thing you can count on the Browns to do in our lifetime as Browns fans? It's to tear it all down and start over. How many times, you know what I mean? Maybe this time we try it differently. And maybe we don't have a knee-jerk reaction to a staff that less than a year ago we were all insanely high on, that has the coach of the year and the coordinator of the year on the staff. So maybe we don't have a knee-jerk reaction to a bad season. Do you think the Niners are going to fire their entire staff this year? I doubt it. Sometimes good football teams have bad seasons. That's what I'm going to kind of hope for here, because we've seen it all get torn down. All that does, it just makes the window now. We're 5, 6, 7 years probably from being competitive again. And so if you're mad about having to watch a bad season this year, well, then if we start it all over, buckle up, and it's going to be 4, 5, 6 more years of just garbage, because you're going to get a new GM who's going to want a new coach, who's going to want his quarterback, who's going to want all of his new staff, who's going to want to turn over the roster to match his style. Yep. So now you need multiple drafts, multiple free agencies to get his guys in there that fit the system he wants to play. All of a sudden you go from maybe we can be competitive next year with a bridge quarterback and then really good again 2 years from now to good luck. You're going to be bottom of the division, bottom of the league now for half a decade again. So I'm not mad if they bring back the staff. I see Ashton says he's cool with bringing anybody back except Barry. I got into it with a guy in the Patreon about this. If Andrew Barry's gone, the coach is gone. You're not going to, the GM is, whatever GM you bring in is going to want his own head coach. And that's kind of the way it works in the NFL and just in the business world in general. When there's turnover at the top, they bring their own guys in. So I'm cool with giving them another year and just getting back to what this roster was built for. Let's get back to running the football under center, play action, and just taking care of the ball, playing good defense. And let's let Kevin run it the way he wants to run it, because turns out he was pretty good at that, considering the dumpster fire he was having to deal with the last 4 years at the quarterback position, and injuries to his running back and injuries to all these guys. He's been pretty good. Let's not overreact and have a knee-jerk reaction to one, albeit incredibly bad season, but it's only one season. In the history books, it's still only one season. Yeah,
that's true. The stuff that concerns me with just Kevin and the this team, this coaching staff overall, the penalties, the turnovers that we've seen be an issue, not just this year. They were an issue last year. They were an issue the year before that. How much of that is coaching? How much of that is poor player execution? How much of that is just a combination? I don't know, but it is a trend that isn't not a good one, and it seems to be continuing. But I'm on board with keeping Kevin. Honestly, I don't care about any of the other position coaches. They can fire and rehire anybody they want. That stuff doesn't really matter as much to me. I have gone back to my old way of being a Browns fan, which I had shifted my philosophy with this regime, with this front office, this coaching staff, because I felt like they had earned my trust. They no longer have my trust. So anything they tell me this offseason, I'm going to question. I'm not just going to convince, like last year, we convinced ourselves that, okay, maybe they know what they're doing with Ken Dorsey. Maybe this is going to be okay. Nope. Gut reaction was bad hire, should never do this, and we should have stuck with that. So I'm going with my gut reactions. If I don't agree with something that they're doing, I'm going to talk about it. I'm not just going to go along with this is going to work out because of this or that. You're going to have to prove it to me, because I heard a whole bunch of bullshit this offseason and all during this season, I don't buy any of it. I mean, right down to Bubba Ventrone. Last week, a few days ago, before the freaking game, tells the media, hey, Dustin Hopkins got everything worked out in practice this week. It was nothing mental. He fixed a couple things, and he's good to go. Comes out for his only kick of the game, a PAT, misses it. I'm like, right there, another great example of, I don't believe anything you guys tell me at all.
Oh, what's he supposed to say? Yeah, I worked with Dustin Hopkins in practice this week. You guys are right. He sucks. I mean, what's he supposed to say?
No, it's just,
he's not going to come out and say, "Yeah, my kicker's mentally fucked. He's not going to make another kick the rest of the year." That's not going to do anything for the guy.
I know. I'm just saying it just plays into this continued line of, they say something, then they go out and it's the complete opposite. And it's just like, you guys suck.
The fall off of Dustin Hopkins needs to be
what the
studied.
Hell? He can't even make a PAT.
No, it's gotten to, I wouldn't have brought it. I just would have let him stay hurt.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's gotten to the point where I am more surprised if he makes it, even chip shots and PATs, than I am if he misses it. He is almost an automatic miss.
Yeah, guaranteed miss. Yep.
I've never seen a fall off like this at any position, maybe at any sport. It's been unbelievable to watch.
Yeah, it's brutal. I feel bad for him because, I mean, by all accounts, he's a really nice guy, great dude and everything, but you got a big extension to go out there and kick field goals, and you are the worst field goal kicker in the league.
This is another one of those things where he was available because he got beat out in the competition. He has been a historically very accurate kicker in his career, but I think the year before he lost in his kicking competition, he was very bad, especially from 50 yards plus. And it's like he came to Cleveland and he had an outlier season. And then we gave him a boatload of money based on the outlier season.
Yeah, we should have just pumped the brakes. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I was for this, but we got rid of a quarterback because we didn't want to overpay him because we weren't sure if he was the guy. But we were willing to overpay a kicker who had an outlier season instead of looking at him like historically just the last 5 years and going, okay, that's a great season. We're going to give you maybe we'll extend you for a year and give you a little bit of a pay raise. But to get up to that money, you're going to have to hit some incentives because we're not going to just give you a bunch of guaranteed money for an outlier season. I don't understand. I mean, and we were all pumped. We were like, oh, great. We got our kicker locked up for 2 years, but they're supposed to be smarter than we are. And
it was 3.
It was a 3-year extension.
Pretty sure.
Well, that's rough.
Yeah, it's going to be. We're going to have a lot of dead cap on this team coming up here soon. But can I play the voicemail from Brad?
Yeah, go ahead.
And then we can kind of wrap up the game talk and move on to some of these other things.
Welcome to the Cleveland Clown Show. And in our right corner, we have a trash can quarterback we decided to start. And on our left side, we had a defense that couldn't stop an offense. And on our other side, we had a awesome first drive that ends up in a fumble. Oh, wait, their score? Oh, on the other side, we have a kicker that can't kick the ball anymore. Oh my gosh. Clowns, clown cars, clown things. Lots of clowns. That's all it is. That's what it continues to be. Clown show, clown show. And I always thought that Andrew Berry's job might be safe, even though they kind of said it was safe. But I don't know about right now. But we'll see what the offseason brings. And apparently we're moving up the draft board. So 2 more games left. And positives. Myles Garrett had 100 sacks in 115 games.
Yeah, so a couple things. We'll talk about Myles here in a second. I just wanted to go back and just say, was there not a more Cleveland Browns way to start a game than straight 66-yard run, first play down the field, you get right to the goal line, you punch in a touchdown, you're up 7-0, well, probably 6-0 on the Bengals, and then they review it, and decide that Deontay Foreman fumbled before he got to the goal line. I know a lot of people were arguing whether it was or wasn't. And I just said, don't put the ball on the ground, and then you don't have to worry about it being called one way or the other. So they get the ball at the 1 yard line, then we go offsides. They get us to bounce offsides, and then they go on a 99-yard drive and go down to score a touchdown. I'm like, that's a start right there.
It was. I just laughed because I didn't think he even really got close to the goal line. Like I saw in the replay, and he was 2 feet short of the goal line but when the ball came out. So I understand going to Deontay Foreman. He's like your bruiser, but the guy hasn't had a carry in how long?
Oh, it's been months.
Just let Foreman or Ford stay in.
Mm-hmm.
He just busted a 66-yard run. The guy has arguably been, outside of Jerry Jeudy, your most explosive, best offensive weapon the last 2 months. Just let Jerome Ford run it in.
Oh.
Like, why give it to this guy who's been bouncing around on your practice squad, who hasn't done jack shit for you this year, and you're going to give him a goal line carry cold off the bench? He hasn't played in months. And then you're surprised he fumbled? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, and I forgot one other detail there, because on the preview show we were talking about DTR, and I said he'll probably get hurt in this game because he's never played a game without getting injured. And then immediately after that drive, and then we fumble and they get the ball back, I get the notification from Sleeper says DTR is being evaluated in the medical tent. I'm like, oh, he's hurt already. Like, it was just, oh my gosh, this game.
He's too small.
He's way too small. Yep.
If you watch him, like, arguably his best attribute is his running ability, and even like design quarterback runs. He's one hit away from the hospital.
I get
every
scared
time.
Every time he runs, I'm like, they're gonna kill him.
He looks like a high school kid running around with professionals. He is a very small person. I don't like to shit on DTR because he seems like a good dude, and he's like a good locker room guy, and he puts in the time. Like, but he was a 6th round draft pick. This is old Brown stuff in terms of hoping for our 6th round draft pick that was supposed to just be a developmental backup guy maybe one day. And we're going, let's see what we got in. And maybe he's really good because he had a good preseason game one time.
Yeah, the Hall of Fame game.
This is 2016, 2015 way of thinking in terms of quarterbacks. It's just, the guy is not an NFL quarterback. He's certainly not a starting NFL quarterback. He doesn't even have the body or the frame. It's just, it's not good. And like I said, I don't want to crap on the guy because he seems like, by all accounts, good dude, but he's just not an NFL quarterback.
Well, when we talk about these players, I mean, I hope everybody understands, like, we're not crapping on them as people. We are crapping on them as football players for our football team. And if you suck, we're going to just say, sorry, you suck. You might be a hell of a nice guy. Like, it doesn't mean I don't want to be buddies with you if I met you at the bar, but I don't want you on the field right now for my team. A guy that I do want on the field for my team, and hopefully he stays on the field going into next year, though, Myles Garrett, Brad mentioned him. So yesterday he got a sack against Joe Burrow, 100.5 career sacks, youngest player in NFL history to reach 100-plus sacks. He tied Hall of Famer Bruce Smith for the 4th fastest to do it in 115 games. A couple other notes. Myles Garrett, like I keep saying this year, he's having a very nice season. We're lucky to have this guy. I mean, he's the first Cleveland Brown to ever reach the 100-sack milestone, just the 2nd player ever to have at least 12 sacks in 5 consecutive seasons. The only other player to do that is another Hall of Famer, Lawrence Taylor. You might have heard of LT. He's currently tied for the 2nd most sacks in the league with 12, and he's also the only active player to have 10-plus sacks in the last 7 consecutive seasons. He's tearing it up.
He's one of one future Hall of Famer, and I'm just worried that if he stays in Cleveland, he's the defensive Joe Thomas for us.
Yeah.
Where, you know what I mean? He's going to be a first ballot unanimous Hall of Famer, and he never has anything to show for it in terms of wins for the football team. And it just sucks because it feels like we wasted Joe Thomas, and now we're wasting Myles Garrett, and we wasted prime Nick Chubb. And it's just, I feel bad for some of these guys because guys like Nick Chubb and Myles Garrett, like Myles Garrett didn't have to sign an extension here. You know, he could have went somewhere else and played, and he didn't have to put roots in Cleveland and go become a minority owner of the Cavs and go to Cavs games and just be like happy to be in Cleveland, and we just keep letting him down. And it's one of those things where I guess I want to pose a question to you and to the chat. Like, if Myles Garrett goes into meetings with the coaches and stuff like that after the season, and he doesn't like what they say, and he says, "Okay, I'd like it if you trade me," then are you guys mad at him? Or like, if Myles Garrett is not back on this team next year because of his own asking, where do we stand on that? Because I don't blame the guy at all.
No, man, I've been posting this stuff about Myles ever since, and we'll talk about it now. We'll shift into that conversation about the comments he made to the media last week. I think it was on Friday, and been posting about it, talking to people about it on social media and fans and stuff like that. And the vast majority of people are on your side of things, saying, I don't blame the guy if he wants out of here. Like, and if he goes somewhere else, I'll root for him on that team because I want to see him succeed. I want to see him win. He deserves it. I mean, he is, like you said, one of one. He's a hell of a amazing player, and he's being squandered on a defensive line that said, hey, guess what? We're going to trade the only other pass rusher that we have to get after the quarterback. We're going to trade him away, and now you're all alone, and he's still making things happen. And I don't think enough people give enough credit to Myles for what he's able to overcome when the offense only has to account for him. And he's still making an impact the way he is. It's incredible.
I guess the next question I'll pose then to you is, even if he doesn't ask, would you consider trading him?
Okay, so where I'm at right now on December 23rd, getting ready for Christmas, no. If he wants to be here, I still want him here. I don't think that we spent the number one overall pick on this guy. Sure, we could get a couple first round picks plus maybe a couple other things, for him or whatever. Are we going to get a Myles Garrett with any of those picks? Do you trust the Browns to get a Myles Garrett again with any of those picks? They're not going to be number one overall, most likely. I would, as long as the team does have like some sort of legitimate plan to be competitive next year, I still want him on the roster. He's just fun to watch. It's great to see a guy like this, on our team in a Browns uniform. But, we can kind of talk about some of these comments too that he said. But what about you? Would you trade him?
It's one of those things where you don't want to get a bad look in as an organization. So if he says he wants to be here and he's given so much to the team, like, you don't want to do him dirty. You especially don't want to trade him to some bum ass franchise. You know what I mean? Like, don't trade him to the Panthers or something like that. But I will say, like you said, if we could get a bunch of picks for him and stuff, but are you going to get a Myles Garrett? And the only thing I would say and play devil's advocate to that is having Myles Garrett doesn't translate to wins on the football field right now. We have Myles Garrett right now. He's having a very good season. We have 3 wins. So if it just depends on where the picks would be, what players. By no means could you ever even entertain the thought of trading Myles Garrett without knowing it's a king's ransom you want. I'm talking the Hall of Halls.
Yeah.
To whatever team says they want him. But I think you would at least have to entertain the idea, because like I said, right now you have prime Myles Garrett and you have 3 wins. And at the end of this year, you will have 2 seasons out of your last 3 that you were bad, very bad. So do you think that you can get good value for him that'll make this turnaround quicker?
Yeah.
I think it all depends too. Is the front office and is Stefanski coming back? If Kevin and AB come back, that tells me the team thinks this isn't a full-on rebuild and they can turn it around quickly. If those guys get fired, that's telling me they think this is a tear-down rebuild.
Yeah.
And if it's a tear-down rebuild, then I think you trade them. And I don't want to say that, but I think you trade them. If Kevin and AB are coming back, then I think you keep them.
See, the thing is, I know what these NFL teams do. They want to build their core. They want to have quarterback, a wide receiver 1, a left tackle, edge rusher 1, and cornerback 1. Those are like the main, the core pieces. And then you got your other guys, like Delpit to safety and JOK and all that kind of stuff. The problem with the Browns, I know you say, we got Myles Garrett and we still only have 3 wins. we have no quarterback. And I'm not sure that any team like the 49ers without a quarterback, it doesn't matter. They have Nick Bosa. They're not going to win a ton of games. I mean, same with the Lions. Like if they don't have good quarterback play, Aiden Hutchinson's not going to do much. Same for the Steelers. Like if your offense blows, I mean, yeah, you got TJ Watt, but what are you really going to do? I think that the Browns can go on a 3-win season with guys like Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward, but I don't think there's any chance they can have a 12-win season without them. Does that make sense?
I 100% think they could have a 12-win season without him if they had a quarterback that could put up points and score football and not turn the ball over 10 times. There's a reason why quarterback's the most positioned in football, not edge rusher. If you could have two very solid edge rushers and a Pro Bowl quarterback, I take that all day over having an elite edge rusher and a bum at quarterback. So having Myles Garrett, if you think by trading Myles Garrett that helps ensure that you get your quarterback, then you have to make that trade-off, because the quarterback, you just proved my point, the quarterback is more important than the edge rusher, which is why I'm saying it doesn't translate to wins unless you are TJ Watt, because he had absolute trash quarterback play since Big Ben left and they made the playoffs and never had a losing season. So having a premier edge rusher, I mean, the Raiders have Max Crosby. They don't have any wins. You know what I mean? The Lions had Aiden Hutchinson before they got Goff, don't have any wins. So yes, it's great having Myles Garrett, but you can lose a whole lot of games with a Myles Garrett and no quarterback, and you could win a whole lot of games with a Goff and not Myles Garrett.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I'm just saying, like, you need more than just, like, it's not just the edge rusher will win you a game. That's just not how it works. Like, football is the ultimate team sport. We know that. It takes everybody.
Which is why I'm saying his value's not there.
Oh, that's fine. I'm just saying,
you're essentially proving my point.
Well, if you want to trade him for multiple firsts to use all those firsts to go get a quarterback and it doesn't work out, now you've used 3 to 5 first-round picks and Myles Garrett on quarterbacks that have not worked out. I don't know,
but
man.
Then we're in the same spot we are right now, a losing franchise. What's the difference?
Yeah, well, like I said, today's December 23rd, and today I would not trade him unless he asks for it. Now, maybe that changes over the offseason. I don't know, but right now that's where I'm at.
It all depends. Like I said, it depends. If Kevin and AB are back, that tells me it's a quicker turn. They think it's a quicker turnaround. And then if you think it's a quick turnaround, then you don't trade him.
Right.
If they're getting rid of the front office and the coach, and they're going to bring a new coach, new staff, and turn over the roster, then you trade him to help turn over the roster faster.
Yeah. Well, and that's what he said, essentially, is if this is like we're 3 years out from being competitive, I don't want to be here, is essentially what he said. Now, I'm paraphrasing. He didn't say I don't want to be here, but he basically said, if it's like 2-3 years out till we're actually looking to be competitive, then I need to go somewhere where I can win and play meaningful football in January and February. And I mean, did you watch his comments? Because I was going to ask you about.
I read some of them, but I didn't watch it.
Okay, so let me think here. He said they asked him, do they have to show you that they have a sound plan going forward, that you want to know, like, what are we doing quarterback? How are we going to get out there and contend again next season? And Myles said, absolutely. As uncertain as it is from the outside looking in, it's uncertain for us as well. So if DTR is the solution or someone else, it's got to be drawn out. There's got to be a plan of action and just got to know where things are going. So to me, I don't think even inside the building, the players feel like the Browns have any sort of answer at quarterback. Obviously, all confidence has gone into Deshaun Watson. Like you said earlier in the show, you can't bring him back next year. At least you can't put him back out on the field.
No, like we said, he's most likely going to be on the roster, which we can kind of use as a segue into the last topic here. But you can't trot him back out there.
The last thing, real quick, on these Myles comments, there's just a couple other things that he said. I wanted to do a show about this over the weekend, but with the holiday stuff, it's just there's too much stuff going on. But he was asked more about the team and everything, about whether or not if he would ask for a trade or anything. He said, what we have to do at the end of the day is what's best for us. So if we have that alignment where this is something that is still possible in the near future, winning, going deep in the playoffs, putting a great defense out there, time of possession, running game offense, getting all the guys back. And I think that would really keep my mind at rest, keep me settled, and not just me. A lot of the guys on the defense, the D-line around the team, but we have to continue to take strides forward, not just as players, but from top down. I mean, I feel like he put the team on blast and basically said, you guys need to figure your shit out. And to me, he really called out the offense here. He said, we need to get back to the run game, time of possession, like we were talking about earlier. Quit putting us on the field so freaking much. We're doing our job. The other side needs to do their job. And I felt like there were underlying shots taken at perhaps Ken Dorsey, perhaps quarterbacks. I don't know, but it just, when the leader of your team, the best player on your team, a future Hall of Famer, feels like he has to come out and say these things, it really makes me concerned about what's going on behind the scenes.
It reminds me of I feel like they do this in the NBA a lot, where like the players will kind of start, even Cavs players, to get JB Bickerstaff out of here. There's some talk of like this kind of at the end of the season last year. I feel like you said, it's kind of putting pressure on the front office, like, hey, these are the moves we want you guys to make. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think there's a good chance Ken Dorsey will not be back. The season was lost, so there's no point to fire him in this season. But I'd be kind of shocked if he's back. I won't be shocked if Kevin and the other guys are back, but I'd be kind of shocked if Kevin's back, just for all the reasons we've seen, plus, like you just said, all the comments that Myles just made.
Yeah.
But if we are going to be getting rid of Dorsey, I think we're going to go back to letting Kevin call the plays, running the kind of offense he wants to do. And then we're going to need a Kevin-style quarterback to do that. And the hot name that is out there right now, and Jack Duffin's been talking about this name for a long time. I don't know if he saw it being available this way, but they just made the move to Penix, and then it came out that they plan on cutting him before March, I believe, or in March. So his next year's salary is essentially going to be being paid by the Falcons, and the Browns could sign him for an extremely affordable, even for us, low dollar amount, and the Falcons could be picking up the tab next year. I think the only reason I think there's a chance this doesn't come to fruition is that Kurt won't want to come play here. If he thinks, if he visits, I know he has the Stefanski familiarity, but if he visits and he doesn't, like Myles said, get that clear sense of direction, like this was a one-off year with a bad quarterback and an identity issue on the offensive side of the ball, and he doesn't think that we're going to be competitive, and he's not going to come here and spend his last year, 2-3 years doing a rebuild with us. You know, he'll have suitors on better football teams, especially considering how cheap he's going to be. So I think that's about the only thing that could cost this, which is why I think Ken Dorsey getting out of here would be important. Kevin could bring him in and be like, we're going to do a lot of what made you good in Minnesota. You know, we're going to get back to that kind of thing. And I think look, we have these weapons, we have this, me and you know each other well. We've worked well together. Look at this defense we're going to be bringing out. We just made the playoffs with Joe Flacco, who turned the ball every other play. If you can come here and play like the way you did in Minnesota, we can be real life contenders. And if you can sell that dream to him, I think it makes a ton of sense to bring him here.
Absolutely. And I know he hasn't had the greatest year this year in Atlanta, but I just keep talking that the Achilles injury, like when we see these guys, quarterbacks, receivers, running backs, come off a lower body, like a leg injury, Achilles, knee, ankle, ACL, whatever, some of these things, the first year back, there's such a dip in production. It drops off. And we saw it most of this year from Aaron Rodgers. You got to remember, Aaron Rodgers tore his ACL first game of the year last year. So he's had a lot.
Achilles.
What did I say? Oh, I'm sorry, Achilles. Yeah. He's had longer to recover than Cousins has, because his was toward the middle, second half of the season last year when he tore his. So, and now these last few weeks, you've seen Rodgers start to kind of have the mobility again, kind of look a little bit more vintage Rodgers. And I think next year, Kirk Cousins will be much better than what he is this year, wherever he plays. I think he's going to have a better season. I think he'll look more like his old self. And yeah, if it's affordable, I hope it's in Cleveland. But I guess there is another option being floated around out there.
Yeah. Before we talk about the other option, I do want to say the comment here says Kirk has been so bad, I'd rather deal with Winston again. Like you just said, first year off the Achilles. Also, I don't think they're playing him to his strengths in Atlanta. They got him in a lot more pistol spread. He's a Joe Flacco-ish type.
Oh, yeah. He's a Kevin Stefanski quarterback.
Yeah, play action, And now Kurt, his entire career can sling the ball. He can throw for a ton of yards. And I'm not saying it's a guarantee slam dunk if we bring Kirk Cousins and he's going to be great, but I think he'd be better than any quarterback we currently have on the roster by a long shot.
Mile.
Like it wouldn't be close.
Yep.
So, but does Kirk want to play in the cold every game? He did start his career in Washington, went to college at Michigan State. I had the same thought earlier. It's like he played in the Dome in Minnesota for all that time, and now he's down in Atlanta. But he did start his career at Michigan State. It's cold up there. He did start his NFL career in Washington. So he has played outdoor cold football before. So I think maybe he's older now and he doesn't want to, but I think he can handle that.
I think, playing in Cleveland is when you're home. And it doesn't matter. You could be playing for the Falcons and you got a road game in, December in Cleveland. You got to go there and play. Or just like the Dolphins next week have to come to Cleveland. I mean, it's only the home games that we're talking about because everybody's going to have to play in the cold at some point.
Yeah, I agree. But before we wrap it up here, we do want to talk about this. I've seen this other idea floated for Cousins to be on here, and it would be that we would actually trade Deshaun Watson for Kirk Cousins. And people are going, nobody's going to want Deshaun Watson.
I called bullshit.
He would get cut right away.
As the first time I saw this, I was like, this is fake news, just clickbait bullshit. There's no way the Falcons would trade for Watson. And then I saw Dawgs by Nature had an article, Jack Duff and OBR had an article. I'm like, oh, I kind of see where they're coming at this angle now, so we can talk about that.
Do you want to break down then kind of why this could make sense for both teams?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, Jack Duffin from OBR, he's been on Kirk Cousins for almost a year now. He was on our show before the season talking about Cousins in Cleveland in 2026 or 2025 as a possibility. And we're like, yeah, okay. And he was like, no, for real. So the Falcons have already moved to Penix. Cousins, obviously, if he wants to play, he's got to get out of there. Like you said, chances are they cut him in March because there's a $10 million roster bonus due in March, so they would cut him before that kicks in. But if they were to trade him with the Browns, now there's a lot of numbers here. I'm just going to kind of fly through the notes. We can do a more in-depth thing about this if it becomes more of a thing in the future. But the Browns, if the Browns trade Watson, it's $80 million dead cap in 25. The Falcons would take on $46 million cap hits for 25 and 26. If the Falcons trade Cousins, it's a $37.5 dead cap in 2025. The Browns would take on $27.5 million in 25 and $45 million in 26, with that $10 million roster bonus coming in 2026. So Jack was saying the Browns could restructure Cousins to a $6.5 million cap hit for 2025. Super affordable in terms of the cap allocation there. And then if they decide to move on and they release him after 2025, it would be dead cap hits of $15 million and $16 million in 26 and 27. Those are big numbers for dead cap, but nothing close to what it is with Watson if we just outright cut him. And then how Jack broke down the numbers, the quarterback swap would mean an extra $27 million of dead cap to Atlanta. So we'd have to trade some draft capital to entice them to take that on, kind of like the Texans did with the Browns and Brock Osweiler. The Browns, he's proposing the Browns send a second-round pick, a fifth-round pick, and Deshaun Watson to the Falcons straight up for Kirk Cousins. The Browns would carry a dead cap of $108 million for 2025, making next year's roster kind of poor. We wouldn't have a whole bunch of cap space available, but it would clear out Watson's cap in one season, his dead cap in one season, that would be huge for the future. And then it just boils down to, do the Falcons want to cut Cousins for a dead cap of $40 million in 25 and $25 million in 26? Or do they want to trade him, take on $27 million in dead cap in 25 with Watson and gain the draft capital?
And I think
that's a lot. I know.
I think it's a long shot, but I don't think it's not that crazy of a scenario. If you're going to cut the guy and you're going to be paying a quarterback anyways, whether it be Kirk Cousins or Deshaun Watson, why not pick up draft capital if you have that ability? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess my biggest thing would be, would 1 second be enough to entice them to do that?
It just depends, because with the money going back and forth, like both teams have dead cap, tied up in quarterbacks, underperforming quarterbacks coming off Achilles injuries now. Some of the enticing stuff for the Falcons, because there was pros and cons for both that they were listing, and it all made sense. Like for the Falcons, obviously Penix is the starter. Watson can come there, rehab, not have to worry about being the starter at all, because he wouldn't be. Or they could just outright cut him, kind of eat a little bit of that, because there was a high-profile writer for the Falcons. I forgot to write her name down, but she actually responded to Dawgs by Nature, I think it was, and said trading for Watson would not go over well with the fan base in Atlanta, so the only way this happens is if they cut Watson immediately after the trade just to bring in the draft capital. But, you know, it might be more alluring for Cousins to come to the Browns if Watson isn't here, because
correct.
You know, then you're sitting there the whole time thinking, well, if I'm not playing great, are they just going to stick this guy back in? They've got a lot of money invested in him. I know they told me this or that, but who knows? You know, so did the Falcons.
No, I agree. I think for any quarterback we'd bring in, not having Deshaun here would be a plus.
Oh, yeah.
Mostly because, like you said, that money. That's always going to be hanging in. Like, if I throw a pick, are they going to put the guy in that they're paying $230? You know, he's sitting there. This is going to be an extremely interesting offseason.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a way more interesting offseason than what the last 2 months of in-season has been for the Browns.
Yeah, so that's why we say make sure you guys follow the show, subscribe on YouTube, tap the notification bell, all that stuff, because all offseason is going to be nuts. We're going to be talking about all this kind of stuff in depth. We'll get Jack Duffin back on the show to talk more about this stuff, have him break it down for you. There's a lot of stuff coming.
Yeah. It's going to be good stuff. It's going to be way better than anything the Browns put on the field for the last 2 months. So make sure you guys are hanging out with us all offseason.
Low bar.
Yeah. But we've hit the hour mark. So we're going to wrap this up. We don't want to bore you. The Cavs should be getting ready to start here soon. So go get your popcorn, your snacks ready to watch a good team. Kenny, Mac, Brad, have fun at the game tonight.
Yeah.
We appreciate everybody who's been here with us for the last hour, hanging out with our therapy session, talking Browns football. Looking forward to the offseason. We only got a couple more of these post-game episodes to go. Thank God. It's a mercy kill. So we appreciate you guys being here with us, not making us do it by ourselves. So again, thank you guys for being here. Thanks for always supporting the show, and have a very great, fun, safe Christmas. And we will see you sometime before next year. But again, have a great holiday.
Yep.